Okay, so we're officially recording now. Welcome everybody to the Canadian Chapter Event Registration webinar. Like I said previously, feel free to ask me questions as we go through this. There's a couple of things that we'll hit that are highlighting some important items for those Canadian chapters who are going to be using the event registration system, so I'll highlight that, and then we'll dive right into actually walking through the website step by step. Of how to set up an event, how it will look from the registrant side, and then how to pull a report as well. Just, kind of what we've been saying here is we're super excited because it's finally here. I feel like you guys have waited forever. And so we're just excited to be able to finally have this available to the Canadian chapters. And we think it'll be a great tool that you'll be able to really use and take advantage of like our US chapters have. So some of the features about the Canadian chapter website, or just event registration in general, is that for you all, the benefit is that there's no event software fees. So for a lot of you, I know you've been using an outside tool, and by bringing it into the website template and offering this option to you, it allows you to kind of get rid of some of those additional fees that you've been experiencing. Obviously, there's some fees that are associated with it, such as the credit card merchant fees, which I'll talk about that here in just a little bit once we get through this a little more. But it's very minimal compared to probably what you've been paying with some of your event software companies that you've used. So that's super exciting. Also, we'll be able to track your taxes. So all of the taxes that are charged over in Canada, we have finally implemented that, so that way you can begin tracking that. We'll have the reporting here on our side. We'll be able to submit that on your behalf. And then we'll work with you on all of the financial reporting that comes back with our finance team to make sure that that's all aligning properly. With the event tool, you have the ability to do member and non-member rates. How that functions is through our database. So if they are a member within our database, they will pull up as a member and receive pricing through the website. If they're listed as a non-member, then obviously they would be associated non-member fees if you choose to set that up when we're going through the event. And I'll show you what that looks like. And then there's a single login through the chapter website. So the really great part about this is that they wouldn't have to have a separate sign-in in order to register for one of your events. What they use to sign on to the APWA website is the same that they use to sign on for your chapter website, which is the same that's used, obviously, for the event registration. Any questions over that piece there before I move on from anyone that's on the call? Okay, we will move along then. So I want to talk a little bit about the chapter credit card report. So as part of the event registration tool, obviously when we process credit cards, it will be processed through our merchant account that we've got, which is Global Pay, which is an international account that we're going to use for the Canadian chapters. And we've set that all up. We've run quite a few tests through it. We believe that it's functioning 100% like it should. But what will happen is, since that goes through the national account, it'll be charged in Canadian rates. So Canadian dollars will be charged on the credit card. We will cut checks back to the chapters using Canadian funds as well. So it won't be US funds that you'll have to transfer or convert back, which will be a really awesome part for you all. But what happens is we process checks twice a month. So typically we close the processing of credit card payments after the 15th of the month. So that week after is when we pull that report, and we will cut a check to the chapters for whatever the amount was that came in during that time frame that came in via credit card payment. And then we do it after the last day of the month. We also pull that again, and we'll mail it off to the chapters as well. With that comes a report that looks very similar to this. This is just a test report, so obviously some of the data in here is a little off kilter, but everything looks the exact same as far as what you will see. So you'll see that there will be a gross sales section, a gross refund, and then the Global Pay net sales. And that's where you guys that's the payment that you would receive from National in the check that we provide back to you. So essentially we tell you what everything is that came in, if you happen to have any refunds, and then what the discount fee is. And the discount fee is what that credit card merchant fee is. So whatever we get charged here for the Visa cards, the MasterCards, those fees, we in turn we charge that to the chapter. So we're not charging you any additional, we're just giving you back what we were charged, and so we deduct that from the check when we mail it to you. but we make it very clear so that way you understand what that was. We also break it down by the events as well. So as credit card payments are coming in, you'll see how much was actually received per event. So that way, if you need to allocate funds to your certain events, you'll know what the breakdown is that comes in for each of those events. Same thing for any of the branches. You'll be able to select if you have a branch event, that this event is a branch event. So therefore, in the report, it's going to show you the event name and the branch that it's assigned to versus the chapter that it's assigned to. So you can break your funds down even closer that way. And like I said, that would be pulled for anything that has come in during that 2-week period. So the 1st to the 15th, and then the 15th to the last of the month is when those are cut and sent to you. Questions on this piece here from anyone?
Ashley, it's Brian here. So this report is sent to whom? Is it for example, we have a third-party organization that does all our accounting work for us, and I'm assuming that they would get this report because they require that to kind of consolidate the financial transactions and for the accounting. But would this also be available to the treasurer and the executive director for the chapter?
You know, that's a really great question, Brian. I'm glad that you asked that. So what we will do is, as part of your guys' signing up for chapter event registration in that document, I think I sent that over to Angela, and she may have passed it along to you already. For each of the chapters, we're asking that you fill out who you want the checks cut to and the report sent to. And it can be separate people if you want to. It could be, we want the check sent here with this report, and then we like an additional copy sent to someone else. The really cool part is we can email this to you as a PDF versus actually physically mailing the report to you. The check will have to be mailed, and it will have an actual hard copy report in it. So for instance, for you all, if you would like to have access to that, the report piece of it, so it comes to someone else, you can just write that on that form that we're asking you to fill out, because the finance team will take that, and that's what they'll use to determine where things need to go for each of the chapters.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Other questions from anybody else on the call? Okay, so I am going to jump right into actually showing you all the website itself. So give me a second here to switch over to that. All right, so are you able to see the website that I've got pulled up here?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and this is a test website. It's got Ontario's name written on it, but it's not the Ontario website. We just were throwing a graphic up there, so that way you all could see it. But this is just our test environment. So it's not the prettiest looking as far as what your actual websites look like. The live ones look much better. They're a little bit cleaner cut as far as the graphics across the top. But what I really want to focus on is just the event tool itself. So we'll kind of start with the front-facing side of it here. So for instance, whenever someone comes to your chapter website, once you publish an event, it will be listed in this upcoming event section here, and they'll be able to click on that event. It'll take them to another screen. It's being a little slow, I apologize. It'll take you to another screen, and it will show all the information that you've placed into this area. So if you've got a graphic or you've got details about your event, it's going to show here. On the right-hand side, it's going to list all of the event information that you've provided in there as far as contact person, the time and the date, the venue, all of that. In the lower section, it will give you the registration items, so all of the actual options out there that folks could register for. It lists that out at the bottom there. On the screen, it will have two register now buttons. It'll have a button across the top that says register now, which because this is a test environment, it's not showing you properly what that button looks like, but it looks identical to the one at the bottom of the screen. So should you have a lot of text in there or content on that event page, it will show you all of this information and then two register now buttons. And so an individual who's coming to the site to register would click on the register now button, and it will take them into the event registration page itself. If they are not already signed into the website, it will ask them to sign in first. So that will be one thing that's probably a little bit different than what you all are used to in the past with an outside event registration company, is that it did not ask you to create an account or sign in. For our chapter websites, we do want that information, and it's very easy to set up an account. Once they set up an account once, it's set up. Doesn't mean that they're a member, it just means that they have a login, and then we have that information in our database to be able to easily track that payment back to them or that registration back to them, and it can tie back to the database, which is very helpful for you as a chapter because then you've got all of that information on them for that event and then for future events. Not every single person who is registered has to have an account. And so what I mean by that is if you've got like an admin at a municipality, they can sign in and register everybody under one cart, and you can have that information tracked by each individual. So only one person essentially needs to have a login to get in to register, and then they can register everybody else for their event or from their municipality. So that piece that's the one little trick I think that might be a little bit different than what you all are used to right now. But once they walk into the event registration tool, they're going to see a screen that says that shows this information right here. So you'll have the registration type, and it's going to ask them right off the bat, who are you registering, yourself or someone else? If they select myself, it will pop up the screen to allow them to select the type of options that they want to select from. You'll notice there's a little bit of difference in the way that the screen looks here. You've got circles and you've got squares. Circles are for main options only, so it means that when you set up your event, you have the opportunity to set up a main option and an optional option. Main means that they can only select this or that. Optional means they can select this and this and this and this, and it can keep going on. And so however you set up your options is how it will show on the screen for them as circles or squares. And so for this event, I've got two main options, and then I've got one optional option that they can add in as an additional item to the registration. And so what the individual would do is they would select one, and then they can select if they want to purchase the additional item here. The other really cool thing that we've got is what we call second tier type registration. So I've set up what that looks like here, for example, using the t-shirt. And so you would have the registration option would be listed, and then you'd have the tiered options underneath of it that look like this. And so then they can select their size of t-shirt or maybe their meal type, or if it's a golf event, they could select maybe something with the golf item if you set it up that way. And then they would hit update. What that's going to do is update the screen, and then you'll notice down here in the bottom portion that it's also updated the dollar amount for them. And you'll notice the taxes are calculated. And I'll show you how the taxes are calculated because as an admin, you have to set that up when you're setting up your event, the tax rates and what's applicable to that event and what's not. So if I drill down on this, I can see how much my taxes are associated with each of those items. And then you'll notice at the very bottom, there's this refund return policy. Based off of the credit card merchant account that we had to have a generic verbiage in here for them that said that this is what our cancellation policy is. That's something that our finance team can definitely go over with you all. There's really nothing super particular about it or anything that's kind of eye-catching. But if you've got questions on what that refund return policy is, feel free to reach out to our finance team. They're more than happy to answer those questions, or you can reach out to me and I can filter it over to the finance team. You'll notice there's an area to apply a coupon, and you'll have the ability to set up coupons if you want those to be used. If you were to apply a coupon, the individuals would need to have the code, and they would hit apply, and it would evaluate the cart total and reassess what that is and tell you what the discount is for the person registering. Once they've got everything taken care of, let's say they've added their self, they went and added a guest, they'd be able to click add payment details. It will pull up a risk and liability waiver, which is again just a generic risk and liability waiver that we're required to have. And you feel free to read through that, but what it's basically saying is that we release APWA and the chapter to be held harmless for anything that should happen at the event. So feel free to read through that. They have to agree yes to that in order to move forward with the registration. If they say no, they can't register for the event. So it takes them into a payment screen, and based on how you all set up your payment options in the event setup, and I'll show you that once we get to that area, they can select to pay however they would like to. If they're paying by credit card, they'd enter their credit card information and move along, which this is the information they would need to fill out. If it's paying by check, then they would need to enter the check information, and then they can move that along. Same thing with pay at the door or purchase orders. So basically, they would come in here, fill out this information, hit preview and submit, and then it will give them a preview screen for them to review it one more time. Once they do, they can hit submit, and it's going to tell them if their order has been successful or if it wasn't. So for those who are using a credit card, if for some reason the card declines, the box would turn red where it's green. This would be red, and it would tell them that their payment was declined. Or if there was an issue with why it wasn't processing, the box will be red, and they'll tell them what the issue is of why they couldn't complete their registration. At this point, the customer can print the screen if they want to, print a copy of their receipt, or if they would rather have, they can print it, but what will happen is they'll also receive an email receipt in their inbox, and then anybody that they register will receive a confirmation email. And I'll show you kind of what those look like here just a little bit, but overall, that would be the front-facing part of somebody coming to the site and registering. Any questions over this particular process here before we really dive into setting up the event and the reports of the event?
Ashley, it's Brian here again. Just a quick one. If the transaction has not been complete, i.e. the payment not been completed, just looking for confirmation that they will not be issued a registration notice.
Correct. They will not receive a confirmation email or a receipt.
Okay.
It basically, at that point, it's not a registration because it hasn't been officially completed.
Okay. And just, sorry, one other thing, and just kind of backing up a little bit in regards to an individual going through the registration process, you had indicated that they need to sign in or create a sign-in. And for members, it would be their membership number, I would assume, and whatever their password is. But if it's a non-member that's setting something up, just wondering who kind of looks after that, the whatever password, whatever they use, if it's lost, are they contacting the chapter, or are they contacting APWA to kind of look for however they set it up in the past?
Great question. So for those who have a login, it's whatever they set up as their username and password. For most folks, it is their member ID. Some folks do not use their member ID. They use their email address, or they've got some other username. If they need to recover their password, on the screen it says, if you're unable to remember your password for your account, please click here. This takes them to the national website that has the password recovery tool in it and the username recovery tool in it. So they would be reaching out to national, not to the chapter, because we don't expect you all to know what that is. Good. For folks setting up their account, same thing here. They'll click here, they'll create their username and password, and if they have any issues, they will contact national, because it's what it's doing, it's redirecting them back to us to set it up, because we're tracking it all in our database and then passing it through to your chapter website.
Great, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions that anybody has at this point in time? Okay. We'll walk through the control panel then. So to set up an event, you have to be an admin of your chapter website. And to get access as an admin to your chapter website, just simply reach out to me. I'm happy to set that up for you. If you're already an admin of the website, you should have access to all of these tools already. If you do not, please let me know. I just need to go take a look at your account to see what's going on there, but it should be a very quick step to get you access. The ones that you need to be most important or most aware of for event items would be the event manager and the registration manager. Those are the two new icons that should be in your control panel that you have access to. The event manager is the creation of the event, and the registration manager is the reporting of the event. So once registrations have gone through, it's all of your attendee information that you'll use. We'll start first with the event manager. And within there, you have the ability to see what's currently out there that's live. You'll be able to look at any past events that you have had out there. And then you'll be able to create a new event. But the biggest thing I want you to focus on the very first thing you must do when you come out to your chapter website before you run any events is make sure you hit this button that says Set Up Event Tax. This is extremely important for you to do. Once you hit that box, it'll open up another screen for you, and you need to go on there and set up what the tax rates are for your area. This is something that at National, I think we pre-populated it for everyone based off of what we know right now, but we are expecting the chapters to know what your tax rates are. So if it changes, we're expecting you to change this, because it's very easy to update, it's very easy to change, but we're expecting you to know what your taxes are, what taxes you're charging in your area, and just making sure that you're staying on top of that. So to do that, you basically would come in here. If you're going to change the rate, you just come in here and change this by clicking on the box, and you type in the number. So if I want this to be 7.5%, I put in 7.5. And then to make it an active tax that you want to show up on your event, you simply check mark the box. If not, you uncheck it, and then you hit Save Changes. It will keep all of that information in there. And if it's false, it's not going to pull that tax into your event or allow you to be able to charge that in your event.
Question.
Yeah.
So if, like, not all provinces have HST and QST, right? If I guess those rates wouldn't apply to what a person would be charged. If, like, for example, Manitoba, we only have GST, PST. So the HST and the QST would not apply to a purchase.
I will apologize. I wasn't able to hear you. Can you make sure you speak right into your phone so we can hear that question?
Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. I'm saying, like, where our chapter, we have GST and PST that are applicable, but not HST and QST. So when we set these up, we have to fill those HST and QST in. So now, if we make a purchase, is HST and QST applied to the purchase?
So you're cutting in and out, but I think what you're asking here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you would select which taxes are applicable for your area or for your members, and then when you're in there setting up your event, you can actually set to the options which one of those are applicable. Now, the only caveat is if you've got folks who are in different areas being charged the rates in different areas, what you set, I think when we get into the event, it might make it a little bit more clear, but when you get into the event, on each option, you can select true or false on what taxes are charged on that option, but what's set on it is what's charged for everybody. It's not based on where the register actually physically is. And the reason being is based off of some of the tax rules and stuff that we've understood from here is that wherever the event is where the taxes are charged. So if the event's held in a certain, provenance or a certain area, that's where the taxes are applicable, is there. Not necessarily where the customer is located, but where the event is held.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think once we get into it, I might be able to answer that for you, because you don't have to charge, just because you say true on these, that these are potential taxes you do, once you get into the option, you can actually take some of those away. Because I know based off of like an educational item, some taxes are charged this and some taxes are charged this and some aren't charged at all. If it's a t-shirt, it's a little bit different.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody on this piece here? Okay. So I'm actually going to walk into an event that I had already set up versus setting one up from scratch, but I will walk you through each of the pieces of that, of what went into setting that up. So essentially, if you were creating a brand new event, you would have hit the Create New Event button, and it will pull up a screen with no information in it at all versus information already listed in it. And so to start off right off the bat, you get to set the security type of your event. For a majority of your events, they're going to most likely be set as public, but you do have the ability to make it a member-only event, which means that if they are not a member in good standing, they will not be allowed to register or sign into this event. It'll tell them that it's just not an option for them. Or you can assign it to be just available to the website admin for right now. For them, I don't think I've had a single chapter ever make an event members only, except for maybe like an executive board meeting. I think they might have said as members only. So you're probably always going to come in here and make it a public event. The event start date and time is a simple calendar drop down that you can come in here and select your date, and then you can select your time. Same thing with the event end date. You can put that in there as well. The other thing that's super important for you to recognize is setting the time zone of what your event is. So making sure that you select what time zone you're in and selecting what time that event starts in that time zone. The reason that's important is because in the event confirmation email that gets sent out to your attendees, there is a calendar option there for them to save it to their calendar. And so if they go in there and they actually add that to the calendar, it's going to add it to the calendar at the time zone of the event that you've set up here. So for instance, like when you're going to PWX or some other location and the time zone is different, you're going to want to set the time based on that location's time zone. So they add it to your members' calendars at that time zone, not necessarily where they are at right now. The maximum attendees is the maximum amount of folks that can register for that event overall. So if you only have 100 spots in the room to sit, make sure you set that to 100 people. Obviously, title self-explanatory. Short description is just a short description of what that event is. So if someone's looking at it really quickly on like a brief preview of it, they can tell what it is. The hosted by here this is used for the financial reporting. So it tells us who's hosting that event. So you can select if it's the actual chapter, if it's the branch. The activities listed here are more for insurance purposes, but on the flip side, on the calendar listing that goes out on the national website, each of these little items here have an icon associated to it, and we're filtering things by those, so it's very important you also select this just beyond insurance purposes. If you don't know what an activity is comparable to, we've got this little button right here that pops open another screen that tells you if it's in a social event, it's something that looks like this. If it's a sporting event, it looks something like this. So we've kind of got some references there for you so you can kind of tell what type of activities each of those are.
Ashley, this is
Yes.
Tammy. One of the things I would make note of on this particular box is if you select YP on this option, which doesn't mean it's strictly a YP event, it will show on their YP page. If you don't select that, it won't populate over there. So that is another thing to think about.
Absolutely. So what she's referring to is the National YP page has an event listing, and it's filtering based off of what's selected in here. So if the event is something that you want to definitely make sure that the YPs are aware of, make sure that that is also checked in there too, because it's what's being used to populate that area on the National YP event listing page. Great catch. The other area is the payment type. So you get to select what type of payments you want. You can select just one payment. If you want it to just be credit card only, you only can select one. If you want it to be all of the options, you simply come in here and just select all of them, and it fills out this information here. Location venue obviously is required, so you would need to fill out that information of where the venue's at. If you don't know the venue name, you're just putting it out there, you can simply put TBD in there and then leave the street and everything else just blank at the moment. Contact name is required. The only thing that's required in that area is the name, the email, and the phone number. Now that would be the contact if someone had any questions about the event, who they should be contacting to ask those questions or reach out to. Mail payments too, this area does not have to be filled out, but the reason why it's important is if you're going to take payments by purchase order or by check, I highly, highly recommend that you fill this out. Because when somebody selects to register and pay that way, in their receipt that they receive from us, it's actually an invoice that gets emailed to them, and it has a box that tells them who they should mail their payment to. So if you don't have this filled out, that box is empty. But if you have it filled out, then it states it right in there who that payment can be mailed to prior to the event. The description area is this big box in the middle, and you can choose to make it as big or small as you want to so you can fill out the information. You can insert a graphic, you can insert documents, you can just straight type in there and change all the text stuff that you want to. If you're really good with HTML, there's a really easy HTML button right here that will view the HTML portion of it. And so if you're good with that, you can go strictly to HTML and manipulate the screen that way if you would like to. Otherwise, you've got the easy edit option right here to do whatever it is you need to do. The other piece of this is I was talking about the confirmation email. So the confirmation email is a very generic one. So I'm going to check mark this box here. what it will do is it opens up at the bottom of my screen this edit confirmation email template. Some chapters like to add additional information into their confirmation emails besides just the out-of-the-box template, and that's great. You're more than welcome to do that. Some chapters just choose to leave it the way it is, and that's great too. Whatever is easiest for you as a chapter. What I have seen some chapters do is they will return this area right here, and they will insert a header graphic for their event, or they'll put in some additional text at the top. Other things I've seen them do is they'll insert additional documents. So if you need to have like waivers signed or additional forms filled out by your registrants, they will attach those documents and put some line of text there that says, please fill out the attached documents and email those over to our contact person prior to the event. Some of them have put in links to hotel registration. Some of them have put in a cancellation policy. They've really personalized it to make it their confirmation email. The only thing that I ask that you do not do is please do not remove any of these boxes highlighted right in here. If you do, they won't get what they registered for. They won't get a link back to the event. It won't pull in their name. It won't give them all of the meats and the details of that confirmation. And so that's the only thing I say is if you're going to put something in here, either put it above or below there. Otherwise, they'll receive just this generic confirmation email to them. So once you've filled out all of that information, you have a button that sits above this box up here that says next to preview and save, or save with options. If you do next to preview and save and don't add options, it literally is just putting your information out on the website with no registration options behind it. So it's just details for them only. If you do the save with options, it will then open up this bottom section right here for you to start entering your options that the registrants can select from. So this is the piece that actually brings in that registration functionality behind it. So to set up an option, you would click the Add New Option button, and it's going to open up a screen for you. And you have this ability in here to label your option however you would like to, select if it's a main or an optional option, select the maximum amount of attendees or the maximum amount of items that can be purchased for that ticket. So again, if you've only got, let's say, 100 seats and you're only selling one ticket, you would put 100 in there, because that's the maximum amount that can be purchased for that item. The max quantity is the max quantity that one person can purchase to their name. For main items, it will default to 1, and you can't change that. For optional items, you can actually select how many of those they can purchase. So for instance, if it's like a book, and it's an optional item, you can say that they can purchase up to 10 books for one person. Or you can just say it's 1. I only want them to purchase 1 book for them. You get to set what that quantity is that they can purchase at one time. The order by is in the way that it is seen on the screen. So if you have more than one option for your folks to register for, you can say which one I want listed at the top of my screen, which one I want listed second, which one third, and that's the order by here, right here in this area. And you simply just say the number 1, the number 2, and that orders them in that way. If you don't fill that out, it will just automatically order them based on how you entered them. The other areas down here, you've got early bird registration and regular registration. So you get to select when you want to open up that registration option for registration and when you want to close it. Member and non-member pricing is also listed here as well. You can make it the exact same price across the board. If you don't want to charge a difference in the two areas, that's okay. You can set them both like at $5 if you want to. If you do not do early bird registration, that's okay as well. The only thing is both of these boxes have to be filled out in this area. So what I usually tell my chapters to do is you set the early bird registration for whatever date you want the event to be open for, and then just copy and paste everything down so these lines match across the board. The dates match, the price matches, and it won't mess up the system. Now, if you do early bird, obviously your dates are going to be different and your prices are going to be different. What I've also told folks too is if they do regular registration and late registration, they change the price based off of it being registered late, you can still use this box for that. What you would do is where it says early registration, you make that your regular rate, and where it says regular registration, you make that what your late rate would be. The customer's not going to see that this is loaded as an early registration. They're only going to see the price tag, and that's it. They're not going to know that this was associated to early bird or late or regular or whatever. The other thing in here, when we're talking about the taxes, right now it's automatically going to calculate everything as true that you set up in your tax table at the beginning. But I can come in here and uncheck mark this box and say it's not true. PST is not charged on this option. I can also change the rate too if I need to for that option. So if it's a little bit higher, a little bit lower, you can change it based off of that too. And then you have a description area in here that you can put a description of what that option includes. Questions over that piece there? Okay.
Hi, Ashley.
Yeah.
Just a question on GST, for instance, with a First Nations, or we have some agencies here in Saskatchewan that are tax exempt. Some pay GST and then they claim it back themselves, and others don't wish to pay it. So how could we handle that?
That's a great question. That's something that we've talked about here internally of how we want to handle that one. If you turn the tax on, everybody's going to get charged, whether they're tax exempt or not. So what I would probably do in that instance is I would probably have some description on your guys' event page or on your website that says how they can recoup those GST taxes by filling out that form, because there'd be no way to get around it if you've added that tax rate to be charged through the website. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and what they may end up doing is then maybe just choosing to pay by check.
Yeah.
If they see that and there's no option to not just pay it, can they back up and then choose pay by check and then just mail it in without GST, and that might make it that simpler.
Absolutely. Yep. They can change the payment option to check, and then they can choose to pay that by check to you guys and remove that out. That's just something when I get to the reporting side, you'll be able to confirm when you receive payments. You'll just have to note that your payment's not going to be that full amount because you'll have to deduct that GST out of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Great question though. I'm going to write that down here as something that maybe we might potentially look at as an enhancement of maybe adding that in. It might be a little tricky because they're going to have to somehow prove that they're tax exempt for that to be removed. But I will put it down as something that we can look at as a possibility for a future enhancement to this. Great question.
Okay, thanks.
For those second tier registrations, I don't really want to go into super detail about them, but real quickly, you do have that ability to do that. And the way to do that is you would click the create new option. You'll notice there's this little button right here that says this is a second tier option. When you select that, it gives you the parent option to assign that second tier to. And then you fill out all the information, and basically it ends up looking just like this right here, because that's what I did with these t-shirt sizes. You can choose to charge additional funds on top of whatever the main rate is. So let's say, like for 3XL, if it's an additional $2, you can put an additional $2 in here. So when they select that, it will charge them the $18 plus the additional $2, or whatever it is that you've got. Otherwise, you can leave them all as 0. It's still going to charge them this top rate, and then they can give you what size of t-shirt they want, or what type of meal they want, or whatever. So to add the coupon, there's this add coupon button. It opens up a screen, and the really cool part about this is you get to set the coupon. So you get to set the code, you get to set the discount rate, you get to set when that option is used. So if you've got VIP, like speakers, for instance, that you want to give complimentary registration to, you can come in here and set the coupon code to, like I said, you get to put the verbiage in there. You can put VIP, speaker, however you want them to track that, or whatever code you want to provide them. And you can say, I'm only allowing speakers to register, use this VIP code from date to, let's say, the end of the week. And then you say what percentage they get to have discounted. So if it's 100%, then you would say 100%, so that's complimentary. Or if it's 50%, you set that. There is a little bit of a caveat to this coupon piece. It is by percentage, not by dollar amount, and it is off the whole cart. It's not off by option. So what I mean by that is once they enter this code, if they've got a really large cart with multiple things in it, it's going to take the discount off of that whole cart versus just an option. It's something that we are looking into in the future as additional enhancements to the coupon code, but right now it's off the whole cart and it's percentages only. So once the coupon is created, you actually physically have to check mark the box to say, I want to add this coupon to this event. So what that means is that once you set up a coupon, you could use it across multiple events if you would like to. The same coupon across multiple events. You just have to go in and attach that coupon to be used for that specific event. And once you do, it'll show you what coupons are valid for that event. So once all of that's completely ready to rock and roll, you click next to preview and save. It's going to give you a preview screen of what you've got out there. You have two save options. You've got the click to save, which is saving it in the back end so only administrators can get to it and it's not publicly available yet for anybody to view. Or you can do save and publish. Save and publish makes it forward facing for your attendees and your members to see the event, and it's listed out on your homepage. The other really cool thing about once you have an event created, if it's an event that you do every year and you don't want to recreate it from scratch, we actually have this copy event right here. If you click copy event, it's going to open up the screen and it's going to give you everything that you had set up in that event, and it's just going to put the title copy of. So then you can come in here and override that information if you want to be a new title, a new date, change all your registration options and all of your dates to match, and then save it without having to completely recreate it from scratch. The other thing that you have the ability to do, my screen will go back, is you can actually delete the event. So if you come in here and hit this X button, it's going to say delete forever, and it's going to ask, are you sure you want to delete this event? You say okay. If not, cancel. The thing is, if you accidentally delete an event, it's really not gone forever. It's gone forever on your end, but not from our end. We can always recover that event and put it back out there for you again. So don't have a freak out moment. Just give me a call or shoot us an email, and we'll get that taken care of for you. So that's the event setup piece of that. Any questions over that? Okay, well, I'm going to run through Registration Manager. Registration Manager, again, is after the registration has happened or after the event is live and folks have started registering. This is where you would come to Registration Manager. So within here, you can do all of your reporting. So if I wanted to go look at our event, I can come search for that event name if I know what the name of it is. So I knew that my event was National Public Works Week event is what I labeled it. I can click on View Registrations, and it will take me into the reporting section. But before I go there, I want to show you guys a really cool tool that's available to you. It's this email button right here. What it will do is it will open up another screen, and you can send an email to all of those folks who are registered. So if I come in here, I can select that I want to email everybody. I can put a subject line, I can carbon copy myself on that, and I can put a text in here. So if you want to send them a reminder before the event, just excited to see you, here's some additional information, you can come in here and send that email, and it will go to everybody that's in this list. Maybe you want to send an email to those folks who haven't paid yet. That would be your processing people and your pending people, because you would like to receive payment, or you just want to remind them to bring their payment to the event. You can come in here and select it by that. It will pull the database based off of that, and then you can write your email message and send them an email. Same thing if you're canceling the event. This is a great way to do a mass email to everybody that's registered, to send them a cancellation email. But let's say I don't need to do that. I just want to go look at my registration. So I'll go click on View Registration. It's going to bring me into a landing page, which is kind of your summary of your event. And so you'll see 3 different tabs listed right here. You'll have a Sales Detail tab, which will break down all of your registration options in here for you and how much was received for them. It'll tell you how many are paid sales, how many are the pending sales, those sales that you have not received yet, and how many are the refunds if you've processed any refunds. The Count tab actually gives you the physical count, is what it's going to give you right here. So it's going to tell you the actual numbers, not the dollar amount. And then Payment Details tells you how your payments are expected to come in. So it's going to tell you how much was credit card, how much people said they were going to pay by check, and how much people have said that they were going to pay by cash. And so that's kind of what your summary tab looks like. The details and edit registration tab is actually the details of those registrations. And this is where if you need to make edits to something or confirm that you've received a payment, this is where you would go with this details and edit registration tab. So within here, it'll give you your order number, the date that it was ordered on, what their status is, and how many attendees are underneath of it. If they happen to have used the discount code, it'll give you that as well. It's going to break it down to you by tax and all of that information. If I click this little arrow, it's actually going to drill down and give you the name of that person underneath of there. You're going to see a couple different things here. For the paid registrations, you're going to see an edit button here. So if you need to edit that registration, you need to refund them, you simply would click edit. It's going to open up a screen and you can edit the option again and submit the refund for them. Or you can add additional items to it and charge them more. The other thing you'll notice here is email. There's an email button next to everybody. So if I click email, it's going to open up another screen for me, and I can say that I want to resend an email receipt to those folks or to someone else. So what we get a lot of chapters have asked us in the past is, hey, so-and-so lost their receipt, can you send them a copy? In the past, we used to have to do that here for national. Now we've given you the ability as an administrator to do that. You would come in there, click that email button next to that registration. You can select what you want to send. Do you want to send it to the actual attendees that registered, or do you need to enter another email address in there because maybe it needs to go to their accounting department? You can key that email address in there, hit send email. It will generate that out to that individual. The other thing that you can do is, let's say you get a phone call and so-and-so can't show up for the event, so you need to change out who's coming. You have the ability to change the attendee now. You click the change attendee, you can type in their information. Once you type in that person's information, there'll be a box to select them, and you hit change attendee, and it will switch out who the name is on here. One little catch about that is if they are not in our database, you won't be able to change to them. So if you need to change to somebody that's not in the national database, just email me that contact information. I can key that in real quick, assign it to your chapter, and then you can go in and change the attendee in the report. That's the one little catch right now. You can't do is if they're not in our database, you can't change it to them. The other thing that's important here is to notice those that are processing and pending. Those payments there are the ones that you have not received. So they're people who have not physically paid you yet. When you receive a payment, I would suggest that you come in here and click confirm. And you'll say, yep, that's what I received right here. And I will say, the button here, don't look at it. It's really not going to refund it. Your button won't say that because the test environment's not working properly. It'll say submit. But once it submits through, you can say how you received that payment. You can say that you received it by check, and this was the check number. You can actually change it and take it by credit card right then and there if you want to, because you'll be able to key in their credit card information, process that payment right there, and it will generate a receipt to them. Or you can just say that they actually paid me by cash. So your question earlier about could they pay by check? Yes, they can. In your report, it's still going to pull in the taxes, but you won't be able to edit that tax dollar amount when you go in to confirm that you've received the payment. So you might have to make yourself a special note on the side that says received payment minus QST taxes. The other thing that's in here is the registration report tab. This is where you actually get to go download your Excel file for your registration. There's two different versions in here. There's a download Excel file and there's a download by attendee. The difference in the two is that the download Excel file gives you everything on its own row, or everything on its own row. And so like if I register for 3 options, I would have 3 rows for my name. So I'd have a row for my initial option, a row for my t-shirt, and a row for my 3rd option that I registered for. The download Excel file by attendees, it rolls everything up to the attendee name, and then my options that I selected are columns to the right on that row. So it would be a longer report to the right versus a report that's longer versus in the row section. But in those Excel files, it gives you everything you would ever possibly need to know about that person. It gives you their contact information, their email address, their date that they registered, who registered them, their dollar amount, the ID number, everything you could possibly want to know about them is in that Excel file. And then once you've got it exported out, you can manipulate that data however you would like to manipulate it. If you need to use it for reporting purposes or sending it over to your event venue, you can choose to use that how you would like. We do give you the ability right here to do badges. So if you wanted to create badges, it'll automatically create a template badge for you to use, which looks like this, and then you can print those out and print badges immediately from here. Some chapters don't like what we've got as a template, and that's completely fine. We were trying to create for the masses. So instead, they use the report, export it, and then create their badges from the exportable file. So that is the event registration, all of it in a nutshell. And I know that that was a lot to kind of comprehend and take in, but are there any questions over anything that we've seen so far today?
In the report area, can we have name, like first name, last name? Would that be an option, or is it just a single name column?
Let me pull up the report. I believe it is broken down in the Excel file as first name, last name, but let me pull this up and just verify. Pretty sure it is. It is. Okay. So hopefully you're seeing this. It has, so it gives you by first, it gives you the card ID, the first name, last name, it gives you to the full, like it literally gives you everything.
Okay.
You could probably ever want to know and more.
Yeah, I thought just for just by sorting for last names, alphabetically, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Great question. Any other questions? Okay. Well, let's go back to the screen here. So to kind of wrap up, the next,
I was just ask a quick question. If you wanted to create registration for an event that was free, would you just do it as like pay at the door and a $0, but still collect all the information?
Yes, great question. So yes, what you would do is you'd actually set up the options. So you would set up as a $0 option and select pay at the door. When the registrant actually comes in to do the registration at that point in time, if it's all $0, literally it's not going to take them to a payment screen. It's just going to have them select the registration and hit submit, and it bypasses that payment screen. So that payment screen will never show up for them if it's a $0 event. But there is a submit button that takes them to a confirmation screen that says you've submitted your order and you're now registered. So if you need to collect how many people are coming to a free event, that's the way to do it. Okay, so next steps. So basically, let's say we've done all of this. The next things you need to do in order to get you up and going is there's a chapter credit card acknowledge form that went out in the email that was sent to all of the chapter presidents, admins, delegates, and alternate delegates. That form needs to be filled out, signed, and emailed back over to us here. You can email that to me, or you can email it to the finance team. Once we have it on file, then you are really honestly good to go at that point. I would suggest that before you really jump into using event registration is if you didn't attend this training session, that you get somebody at your chapter who will be doing your event stuff to do a training session with me. They can easily call me up or email me and we'll set something up and we'll do a webinar. They're more than happy to watch this as well, but we just want to make sure that you guys are well aware of how to set up an event and how to run it. I really would hate for you to struggle your way through it because it is fairly easy to use, but with just a little bit of coaching to get through it. The other big thing is making sure that you know how to set up your tax stuff and that you know your tax information. That's huge in order for you to get started. And then obviously setting up your event and publishing it. So those are kind of the next steps there. But honestly, at this point in time, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask. If you'd rather not ask it on the webinar, that's okay. You can email me or give me a call. Any questions you have throughout the process, once an event is live or during setup or anything that you're seeing, please pass that along to me. I am usually pretty much available at all times. If not, I will get back to you as quickly as I can. The other piece of information is that right now for credit card payments, we are accepting only Visa and MasterCard. We are working on American Express to be accepted for Canadian chapters, but that will probably come in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So if you've got an event that you need folks to use American Express, you might have to hold that for just a little bit longer, and we apologize for that one, but it will be set up. It's just going to take us a couple extra weeks to get that part finalized. Any questions at this point? Okay. If not, then that's the end of our presentation. I appreciate you guys for taking some time to sit down and go through this with me. Hopefully it was beneficial to you, and hopefully you're as excited as we are to finally have this product available to you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashley.